Welcome to Talking Comfort Live, a video podcast where HVAC professionals go for fun, learning, and sharing, while exploring the world of mini splits, heat pumps, and the inverter technology that brings efficient comfort to our fascinating industry. We're looking for you to be a part of the show. If you have a question, whether it centers around application, installation, preventative maintenance, troubleshooting, a future technology, or anything we share on the show, send it our way by clicking the question mark icon to the right of your screen. And you'll also see the poll icon there as well. Now, on to Talking Comfort Live.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Talking Comfort Live. I'm your host today, Duane Butler. We're here at Barstool Nashville in the heart of downtown Nashville, close to the corner of Broadway and 4th. I'm here today with my friend Nick Conklin from Barrow. Today we're here to talk about a GREE VRF system installed here recently at the Barstool Nashville facility. Here, let's talk to our friend Nick. So Nick, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'm Nick Conklin. I work for Barrow, managing their ductless and VRF division, a little bit DX as well, like commercial products. And I've been kicking around ductless and VRF for about 15 years, and Barrow's been selling GREE VRF for about 4 years now. So
yes,
we're very proud of the installation that we have here. Our customer, Jewell Mechanical, chose GREE VRF because of their availability, the quality, and ease of installation of the product, and very excited to have it installed right here in downtown Nashville and cooling this wonderful space for us.
Yes, nice space. We've been here for a day kind of reviewing the project. Nick and I went through the project, kind of talked about it. Particularly, we're going to talk later in the show about the specifics of the equipment, why they chose what they did as far as inside and out, what the a little bit of detail on the equipment. So we've also been able to talk to our friends at Jewell Mechanical. So let's go into a little recording from our friends at Jewell, telling more about the project.
I'm Jeff Hopkins. I'm the operations manager for Jewell Mechanical. Been with Jewell for a little over 10 years, been in the business since 1984. Did a lot of service work. We've grown into quite a large commercial construction. We also have residential construction, plumbing service. We have a residential HVAC company also. We do a lot of dentist office, medical office buildings and all, and VRF is becoming more and more the norm and not the exception. Before, very expensive, started out as one-to-one systems. They were limited on how large a project you could do. Now, pretty much the sky's the limit. The efficiency of VRF, no conventional system can compare to it, even the higher SEER conventional systems. When we first started this, we had a couple of ductless systems on the plans, and as we got talking with the owners and looking for their vision of what they wanted here, we quickly realized that the ducted systems that they were trying to use with existing units was not going to work. As you can see, there's multiple TVs, and we kept hearing the phrase line of sight, line of sight. So we looked at what we could do on the VRF side, eliminate a lot of duct so that they could have all the TVs and neon and everything that goes with Barstool. Feedback so far has been, it's great. We had all of the patio doors out here open fully, and I went in and checked, and during the height of it was 73 degrees here, so it was very nice. When we decided to go to the VRF and take out a lot of the duct, lead times for any equipment is very long. This was on a very tight schedule to get completed. I reached out to Barrow. Joe says, I have what you need, and ended up giving him a PO, and he told me it'd probably be 2 weeks before we had equipment, and I think in 4 or 5 days I had first piece of equipment, and that helped out a lot. Availability wasn't the only factor. I did some research and found out how long the GREE had been doing this. I was quite comfortable with the quality and the performance. Once we found out we could get the equipment that fast, we pulled the trigger and went with that. The support has been awesome. Between Tom Barrow and GREE, it's been a painless process. We had some newer guys trying to get some programming done. We called GREE, that was taken care of. It feels great in here. The air conditioning, I mean, what was it today? 90 degrees, it's great in here.
Welcome back. I want to thank Jeff from Jewell Mechanical for taking the time to kind of give us a little overview on the project and why they selected GREE. So as we go and we discuss more about the project, Nick, you were involved in the design.
Yeah.
So you've been a partner of ours for a little over 2 years with GREE VRF. So tell us on this project, why GREE VRF?
So as Jewell mentioned, what was paramount first and foremost to this project was availability. And you guys did a great job in getting us the product, as Jeff pointed out, as quickly as possible to make sure that we could meet the needs of this project. But furthermore, it was the flexibility of the installation of this project, the fact that we could use all the cassettes throughout this venue and maintain line of sight throughout the venue, so that you had good line of sight to all the TVs and everything else that was going on inside the bar.
Okay.
So that was one of the reasons that they chose it. Furthermore, that we had went a few weeks before and sat down with Jewell, really talked to them about GREE VRF, went through who GREE was, talked to them about the product line, and they were really engaged with us when it came to the startup and ease of configuration of the product. The fact that there are no dip switches, are no rotary dials to set, that you press 2 buttons on the outdoor unit and 10 minutes later you're up and running. So I think GREE's done a tremendous job in designing this product line for startup and ease of installation and serviceability on the system. And that's really one of the things that got them excited about it and make them look at us for this project, along with the local support that we provide by Tom Barrow and all the training that we do here, both for them customized for this job as well as monthly trainings we do in our training centers in Atlanta and Tampa.
Okay, so going back a little bit, so Jeff kind of gave us an overview. Let's kind of expand more on that line of sight thing.
Sure.
So for those of you in the audience, you're not here to see all of the facility. We'll show you some more videos of it later, but this is a place people gather. There's a real nice venue behind us. There's band, live music, but there's a lot of TVs for watching sports and other things like that. So line of sight, as listen to him, there was a lot of custom fabricated metal that caused the job a problem.
So the original design had a smaller VRF system in here that was only serving a very small portion of the facility, only the upstairs.
Yeah.
When you look at the downstairs, it's got, not super high ceilings, but they wanted places for people to sit, but also wanted to minimize what was going on overhead. And when you look at everything that's going on in the ceiling on top of trying to install ductwork in there, it presented some real challenges. So we were able to come back, expand the usage of VRF, and leverage the cassette products, both the one-way cassette, the four-way cassette, and the floor ceiling product to fully service the space, along with ducted units for the back of the house, the kitchen, and everything else.
Okay, so let's take a minute and let's look and see if we have any questions from the audience. All right, so we have a question from the audience. Are there any diagnostic tools specifically made to diagnose GREE products? So on the VRF side of the house, we have a handheld tool that you can plug in and see the state of the system. It allows you to do some diagnostic troubleshooting, state of the system. In the future, we're working on a product for that will do all GREE products as far as being able to diagnose them with a handheld tool. And you will see that probably later in the end of the year, that one tool will do VRF, ductless, flex, all of our different products. So good question, thank you for the question.
One of the great things about that tool is not just its capability to diagnose the system, but fully configure the entire VRF system, from setting static pressures to setting sensing locations to seeing everything that's going on in the indoor unit. So you can do anything you can think of on the system. You don't have to touch an indoor or touch a controller. You can do it all from that tool.
So you've sold multiple brands.
Yeah.
And many times a VRF system startup, very expensive, big fee. That particular tool's thousands of dollars. Was that the case with this tool?
No, it was very affordable, and in fact, we've made it a standard policy in Tom Barrow to provide this tool on any three-phase project that we sell.
Yeah.
We want to get this in the hands of our contracting customers because we want them to have an easy time as possible starting up this system, and so that's our goal.
So let's talk a little bit more about the system. So it's a mixed-use space, and so what's the capacities here again? Tell us the details of the system.
So there's 3 different systems that are on this building. There's two 12-ton systems and a 16-ton system, all heat recovery, serving both the back of house spaces, kitchen spaces, office spaces, as well as the bar restaurant area. So we've got kind of this mixed use going on. So that made it a perfect mix for that heat recovery system that we have that'll do both simultaneous heating and cooling. We can heat the front of the space when it's really cold outside and cool the kitchen because there's always thermal load in the kitchen that needs to be taken care of. So that made it a perfect choice for this particular application.
Yeah, so for those of you maybe are new to VRF, you know, heat recovery, we have 2 types of VRF systems, heat pump and heat recovery. Heat recovery is the ability to have simultaneous heating and cooling, one zone in heat, one zone in cool.
Exactly.
And so as you were designing the system, that was pretty important?
It was important. I mean, it's important in many applications that you run into, whether you're in office spaces or schools or anything, but in this particular application, you get all that heat load in the kitchen from cooking. It's almost constantly in cooling, doesn't matter what time of year it is. So we needed to make sure that we had the flexibility to heat and cool at the same time.
So give us an overview of, we know what we have on the roof. You know, we've got 3 condensers serving the space. So tell us a little bit about your indoor unit selection, what you have. You know,
Sure.
I've seen a very different types of indoor units.
Throughout most of the bar restaurant area, you'll find cassettes, mostly 4-way cassettes, and then we have a few 1-way cassettes where it made sense. You'll see that we have 1-way cassettes helping to throw some air across the stage downstairs, so that made a lot of sense to use a 1-way cassette there. And then up top we have a few floor ceiling products that are helping to put some air into some areas where we required longer throws. Okay. Those floor ceilings are really known for having really long throws, and so it made perfect sense to use those in place of some of the ducted units. Okay,
so to kind of for our audience, so the space, we're setting up on a mezzanine high, and below us is the first floor level. So on the ceiling above us, there are cassettes around doing the space, and then on each end, it's kind of was an L shape, I would say.
Yeah.
When Nick was designing the project, he hit a floor ceiling, so it's underneath the ceiling, and he did it for its long throw.
Yep, correct.
So you have all these units on central control?
We do. We have all of them tied into a centralized controller, obviously in the back to make sure that nobody can play with it, then we don't have the patrons playing with it, especially after a couple drinks.
Yes.
That's never good. But we wanted to make sure that they can fully control and configure the system from one location, so the restaurant manager can fully set the temperatures, either all the same or individual set points across any of the indoor units.
Okay, great. So let's take a look and see if we have any questions coming in. So here's a question. This question is from somebody that's new to VRF.
Okay.
All right. So the question is, you know, VRF's been in the States for around 20 years.
Yep.
And so for someone that the question was, how do I get into VRF? Where do I start? So you've had a lot of experience. You've been in VRF for 15, 16 years, multiple brands.
Yeah.
And so for those that are new to VRF, what's the first thing? Tell us some things you would say to them. First, I would say, don't be scared of it.
First off, don't be scared of it. It's not rocket science. The first thing you can do, the best thing you can do is seek out training. We provide training, as I said, once a month out of our training facilities. We train on the smaller systems, mini VRF MultiPRO, all the way up to the larger 3-phase systems, heat recovery systems, and larger heat pump systems. So we provide training to make sure that you know how these things install and that installations go right. The key to VRF is piping, power, control. You get those 3 things right on a VRF system, and pretty much everything else is simple. So start there, and then if you really want to dip your toe in the water in VRF, start out with a MultiPRO system. These systems are amazing multi-zone systems that can save a tremendous amount of money when it comes to installation and labor with reduced pipe lengths. Because with traditional ductless multi-zone systems, you typically had home runs going back to your outdoor unit.
Yeah.
The MultiPRO allows you a single pipe inside and then Y branching off to each of the indoor units, or using a header to go to each of the indoor units. And that reduction in pipe going all the way back to outdoor unit can really add up to some significant savings on a project. So I'd recommend start with the MultiPRO and go from there. And of course, the costs for MultiPRO and mini VRF, especially with the GREE system, very competitive to the ductless multi-zones that we have out there in the market today.
Yeah, so to kind of recap, one thing I heard you say was it piping?
Piping, power, controls.
Piping, power, and control.
Piping, power, and controls. Make sure those 3 things go right.
All right, well, talk about the piping. Variable refrigerant flow. Piping is the lifeblood of the system.
Piping is the lifeblood of the system, the arteries of the VRF system, effectively. That's what's going to move your refrigerant from the outdoor unit to your mode exchange box in the case of heat recovery, and to your indoor units. That's going to provide either the heating or cooling into the system. The controls is what allows that system to communicate. Because this system is all variable, everything has to talk. The outdoor unit needs to know what the indoor units want to do. The outdoor unit needs to know what the mode exchange box is doing. So we need everything to communicate. So that's where your communication comes into play. And of course, power is critical. We have a wide range of power we can accept in these units. Anything from 187 to 254 volts on the 208, 230 product. But we need to make sure that the power was run correctly and applied correctly, both the indoor units, outdoor units, and mode exchange boxes. So those are the three major areas we see that people tend to get tripped up on. And that's why at Tom Barrow we've made it standard practice to do both monthly trainings for these products as well as project-specific trainings. I really want to emphasize, if I can get 2 hours of a contractor's time on the front end, I'm going to save you 2 weeks on the back end and trying to chase things down.
Yeah, well, good feedback. So we agree. Tom Barrow is one of our factory authorized training partners. In Atlanta, Georgia, and Tampa, Florida, we have 2 factory authorized training centers. We'll be starting back up our training schedules in the fall. And so one of the things we're going to be doing in the fall is we're going to be doing a lot of simulcast training.
Yep.
But one of the things I think, from my perspective, VRF is really growing.
It is.
But one of the things that we look at some of the magazines and the trade magazines, we tend to always see these big rooffuls of condensers that a lot of our contractors don't necessarily do those kind of projects. Would you say you're seeing a little bit more acceptance in different types of projects like this one? Or are you seeing more design build, smaller projects?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm seeing an expansion of VRF applications holistically. You see everything from these large type open spaces, restaurant, bar areas, office buildings, to hotels, to a variety of applications, but you're also seeing just more one-to-one systems. I mean, I see one-to-one, one-to-two systems. The VRF system doesn't need to be a complicated array of indoor units and outdoor units. It can serve some very simple applications, and we've used it in place of commercial splits in many, many, many applications throughout our territory.
Yes, good feedback. Let's take a look and see if we have any more questions from the audience. Okay, so we have a question, and so this question comes from some experience. I mean, kind of understand what they're asking here. Basically, they're talking about, does GREE have the ability to take a VRF outdoor unit and connect it to a third-party air handler?
Oh yeah, we've actually we just started up a job last week with that application where we did 4 12-ton air handlers with 12-ton outdoor systems with VRF. We use something called the AHU kit. And what that does is it basically allows us to take any coil and turn it into a VRF indoor unit, anywhere up to 30-ton single circuit, and we can even go larger to do a 60, 80-ton system. So there's a lot of flexibility in that now, being able to connect a VRF system, VRF outdoor system, to third-party air handlers, third-party coils. We've seen people get really creative with it, doing things from built-up DOASs to adding reheats on standard systems. There's a lot of flexibility in the application of that AHU kit.
And so that's something, are you seeing a growth in use of that product?
Yeah, I see it on I would say about 50% of the jobs now that we're doing have some form of an AHU kit, whether it's just one indoor unit serving or one outdoor system serving a DOAS, or whether it's a system that required high static for a variety of applications, whether it needed some additional filtration or something different in that particular job. It seems to be popping up at about half the jobs we do.
That's good. So talking about the change in the market, and so, VRF has been in the country for around 20 years, a little over 20 years.
Yep.
And still a lot of contractors have been hesitant to maybe get involved with VRF because of some fears or maybe misconceptions of the product. So, with me personally, I've been around mini splits. I installed my first one in 1989. So the product on the mini split side has grown with acceptance.
Yep.
And one of the things that we're seeing here at GREE that, it used to be years past that, talking about mini splits, a single zone 1-to-1 was 90+% of our sales.
Right.
And then multi-zone started to come in, and then we started to see a shift where it's probably 60-40% of the market.
Yep.
So one of the things that we're seeing, I want to see if you can kind of give some of your opinion on this, is that those of our contractors, if you're looking to set yourself apart, the MultiPRO, which is a mini VRF unit, kind of gives you some separation, the ability to be able to do a vertical air handler, full static air handler, and some kind of a different kind of a ductless product.
Yeah, I would say that the use cases that we have for the MultiPRO mini VRF system really drive off of a couple of things. One, it's the different indoor unit types and different indoor sizes that you get out of that MultiPRO system. But two, it's also the piping line length. You get tremendous piping flexibility out of that. We get up to 164 foot vertical separation on that unit, and up to 500 feet of pipe between our indoor unit and or outdoor unit and furthest indoor unit. So that range goes far beyond what most multi-zone systems were capable of doing. And of course, the larger connection sizes, the fact that the expansion valve is at the indoor unit, allows us to right size those valves for larger size indoors. So we can go up to 4-ton vertical with a 1-ton high wall on the same system, and the system works perfectly that way.
So one of the unique capabilities with the MultiPRO is the ability, it not only can be a multi-zone, but it can be a single zone.
Yep.
So some of our competition has really expensive commercial units that are one-to-one related, rated units. So have you sold any projects with some of the mini VRF or MultiPRO that are specific to one-to-one larger sizes? Yeah,
we've sold quite a few in place of those one-to-one larger sizes, and in fact the piping length has really played a play in that. I just had a call yesterday on an application where they wanted to go 260 feet of pipe length, and really there's not a ductless system out there that has the capability to do that unless you go to a mini VRF system. The other thing we've developed on the GREE mini VRF side, MultiPRO side, is the single point power kit, which is what allows us to also have the option of powering the indoor unit from the outdoor, or you can power the indoor unit separately. So we've kind of hybridized the ductless powering approach for that indoor unit that really helps people keep the applications they like with the ductless system.
Okay, so let's take a look and see if we have any more questions from the audience. All right, here's a really good question, Nick. So like from this question, I think the contractor's experienced. All right, so they're asking, why would I pick a MultiPRO versus a standard multi-zone?
Sure.
And so can you explain what the difference between a multi-zone, the high capacity and the turn down, the low end ratio is, what's the difference between a MultiPRO mini VRF, its low end capacity versus like a standard multi-zone?
So the outdoor unit systems have roughly the same turn down in totality. But when you're looking at a multi-zone system, traditionally you're talking about home run connections from the outdoor unit to each indoor. So most of those connections have they all have the connections typically at the outdoor unit. The expansion valve is out the outdoor unit. All of those expansion valves are default sized to go to a maximum typically of 2 tons and no more. So you have a little limitation on the top end with the multi-zone systems as to the largest size of indoor unit you can typically use with that multi-zone approach. With the mini VRF, because the expansion valve is at the indoor side, we really have that ultimate flexibility, and the expansion valve ends up being right-sized for that particular indoor unit. So on that 9K, we have more ability to turn down. On the 48K, we have more ability to turn down because everything is right-sized for the particular size of the indoor unit.
So big difference, I think, just to recap for the audience. So with the multi-zone home runs, multiple ports on the outdoor unit, individual pipe to each head.
And wire to each head.
And wire to each
head, right.
And so with the mini VRF or MultiPRO, one pipe going in, wiring off, no branch boxes to each head. So you talked a little bit about the single point wiring kit. With a multi-zone mini split, it's powered, the heads are powered from the outdoor unit.
Correct.
So with this particular kit that we've created here at GREE, tell them a little bit about what we're doing with this.
So what we've done is, traditionally for VRF and mini VRF systems, the indoor units require a separate single 15 amp circuit from the panel to feed those particular indoor units. When we look at the outdoor unit, it's got more than enough power to cover those indoor units, so we're able to integrate in some additional protection for those indoor units and then provide a feed from the outdoor to feed those indoors. So it gives you the flexibility to choose on a project. Does the application lend itself to powering your indoor units from the panel, or does the application make more sense to power from the outdoor?
Okay. All right, let's go back to the audience and see if we have any questions here as we start to kind of wrap up the show and get towards the end. Let's see what we have here. Okay, here comes a question from the Northeast. Okay, so the question here is, that sound like this contractor sold a lot of multi-zone ductless products. He says, what does mini VRF or MultiPRO do different to avoid temperature overshoot and heating? That he's reading this, I think he's had some maybe issues with a zone sizing or something like that. So is, explain the difference between the metering device in the indoor unit, like a VRF, versus a metering device in a mini split.
So because when you're dealing with the multi-zone system, you have the metering devices at the outdoor, oftentimes we have to keep the metering devices open and have bleed through in order to get proper oil return into those systems. We can't always shut them off completely. With VRF, we do have the capability of, at least at select indoor units, deciding which indoor units we can fully close those metering devices on to help prevent overheating in some of the small spaces. And what it is where an indoor unit gets oversized in a particular application, you may get too much heat being dumped into the space, even at the lowest fan speed, at the lowest position in some of these expansion valves. So it is important to have that feature to be able to fully shut it down.
So would you say, for those that are experienced with ductless, they're looking for a way to set themselves apart?
Yeah. And I would say one other thing about the MultiPRO system that's really set it apart specifically with GREE is, with other VRF systems, it's been cumbersome to set addresses, to get the system set up. There's been a lot more technical hurdles to overcome with other manufacturers' many VRF systems. The ease of installation that I talked about with the 3-phase system here at Barstool really carries right over into the mini VRF MultiPRO system and makes it just such a breeze to set up that I think people have really gravitated towards it.
So as we kind of wrap up here at Barstool Nashville, so what I hear you saying is that the GREE relationship has been good.
It's been good.
We've, through something for all of us in the HVAC industry the last few years, has been product availability.
Yep.
We've been able to keep you with products to install and sell in a timely manner.
You have.
And so, one of the things that I think we heard our friends from Jewell talk about was we were able to get product quickly.
That's right, 4 days, I think.
Yeah, so we have a lot of supply in the United States warehouses that we can provide quickly.
And parts too, so that's another thing. And not that we ever want anything to go wrong, but certainly there's some extreme weather that happens in the southeast. We get our share of lightning, and we've had lightning strikes and boards, and you guys have been excellent, and not just finished goods, but parts availability on this product.
So as we recap the project, we had the inventory.
We
were able to meet the design need.
Absolutely.
So we served you well. We had questions. Startup was easy.
Yep. Startup was a breeze.
Quiet installation.
Absolutely.
Or operation, I'm sorry. Job over experience, been good?
Yeah, it's been great.
Great. As we look, tell me some, as we kind of highlight some other projects maybe you've done recently you might want to tell the audience about. Is there any particular product? I know you've sold a lot of stuff. We've had a lot of things going on throughout the South.
We've been excited to see the AHU kits come out, and we do have a lot of projects in the hopper. Obviously, I don't want to go through all of them, but we've seen a lot of things come out with the AHU kits. We've done a few built-up DOASs with third-party air handlers. We've got a variety of air handlers in Tom Barrow's arsenal through our Nortec partners that we've been able to utilize. So it's been a great experience so far with VRF, and we've been excited to see the growth.
Great. Well, Nick, thank you again. We want to thank our friends at Jewell. We want to thank our friends here at Barstool they've let us come in today and go through all the projects. Nick and I have been up on the roof. We've been all over the units inside. Had a great time at Nashville. So enough HVAC talk. Let's go have a drink here at Barstool.
Let's do it.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, thanks for watching Talking Comfort Live with GREE HVAC. Make sure to keep a lookout for an invite to our next show, or subscribe to our GREE Comfort YouTube channel to make sure you get notified anytime we release new content.